welcome back to another episode of the Into the 99 podcast, where we've got 99 cards because Commander is number one. I am your hostess with the mostest, Necrozak, and joined, as always, with some of my most treasured friends, Brian, Dan, Lotus, and Ryan. How are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Good.
Excellent. On
I'm
this
doing good over here
snowy,
as well.
cold day.
Still grey outside.
Cold and
Jack
snowy
decided
here.
to say hi. So today, I think we are talking about the reserve list, one of my most least favorite topics ever of Magic. So I'm super excited to get schooled on why my opinion's wrong.
We'll put you in
So-
my position most times if you're in gameplay.
Oh, where you die first?
Yeah.
That's what, I kind of like that, though. That makes people happy. So, yeah, so we're talking about the reserve list today. Does someone want to take off and explain exactly what we're doing with it?
We'll let Ryan start it off. Ryan, yeah, what is the reserve list?
So the reserve list is a list of Magic cards that will never be reprinted. And the original reasoning is to preserve their value on the secondary market. And on March 4th, 1996 is when it first appeared. And some of the reasons, or some of the definitions of what they're trying to do is the cards will never be printed again in a functionally identical form. A card is considered functionally identical to another card if it's the same card type, subtype, has the same abilities, mana cost, power, and toughness. The exclusion of any particular card from the reserve list doesn't indicate that there are any plans to reprint it. And the reprint policy applies to both English and non-English. And it only applies to tournament legal Magic cards in printed form.
What year did this list get introduced?
1996.
So
and then it's been
That's
been
kind of
revised
funny
twice.
because they put this list into place 3 years after they started printing cards.
So the reason that happened is
Before we get into that, I did want to touch on the functionally similar part. Functionally similar to them means like the Kaldheim Snowlands, like the dual lands, are not functionally similar to the normal duels, so they can print them. They come in tapped, which means that they are not as strong.
the reason that they created this policy is, and I don't remember the years that the two sets were created, but there was 4th edition and Chronicles. And when those sets came out, there were a lot of reprints in those sets that absolutely destroyed the secondary market value of cards from Legends, cards from Antiquities, cards from Arabian Nights. So collectors kind of freaked out because their cards, and back then the cards weren't worth what they are today, but back then, they had cards that were worth like $10, and there was a reprint in Chronicles, and the reprint in Chronicles was 25 cents. And these collectors freaked out because they thought that Wizards was going to continue to reprint cards and absolutely destroy the secondary value and collectability.
Well, and their whole point was it's supposed to be a trading card game and a collecting game, and why would I bother collecting them or keeping them if I can just get them a year from now, 2 years from now? They're not actually worth trading if you can just keep getting them over and over and over.
That makes sense. Like the Dreadmaw.
Yeah,
exactly. Like Colossal Dreadmaw, exactly, but with Black Lotus.
It's not in our game, but Yu-Gi-Oh had a lot of problems with this early on, where they would say they'd have a card that was X of in every deck, and it was like a $500 card, and then they would put it in a $10 tin as a common. 6 months later, it absolutely would destroy the value, and people freak out.
Yeah, they actually had a really weird thing too, where they did. They would print a card that was very, very broken, so everyone needed to play it. Then they would ban it. Then everyone's value on it would drop a bunch, and then they would unban it and be like, okay, well, now because we have this card, here's the new problem. So we're banning card B and re-allowing card A. So their market value for things is horrible.
That sounds terrible.
Magic has been pretty consistent with its keeping things valuable range. But the other big problem with a lot of reserve list cards is they didn't understand how the game functioned either at the time. Magic, and Lotus here can attest to it, is a very, very complex game. For everyone who doesn't know, Lotus is judge. And yeah, there's How many questions a day do you get, even just like in our Discord server, about rules interactions, like nonstop?
Between the 99 Discord, my own Discord, and texts and messages, I get about 10 a day. Especially when a new set drops.
How does this work? What is this wording and stuff, right? So when they first printed obviously, like, they're called the Power 9 for a reason and stuff, right? Like, they are just cards that function significantly more powerful than anything we play with today. Like Time Walk, an extra turn for 2 mana. You can't do that. They've
the boons.
Yeah.
You know, Lightning Bolt, Dark Ritual, Ancestral Giant Growth, and Healing Salve.
It is Healing Salve, yeah.
Which, like, 3 of those are some of the most amazing cards ever printed, and 2 of those are decent. Well, one of them's decent, and one of them is garbage.
And one of them's white.
One exists.
I'm gonna take a guess. Healing Salve?
Yeah. Brian, not knowing what Healing Salve does, what do you think it does in white? If Dark Ritual gives you 3 mana, Lightning Bolt gives you 3 damage.
3 life.
Yep. 3 life versus the blue one of 3 card draw.
Yeah, it should have been, if anything,
blue.
it should have been like you go get 3 lands. But that'd have been busted.
Print the strongest white card ever made.
So oh, yeah, God, let's go back in time. Let's change this.
So, like, obviously, Magic could not at any point predict its popularity. Like, in 1996, when they made this list, there's no way that they thought, like, hey, hundreds of thousands of people are going to, like, spend their weekends playing this. They're going to get together with their friends. Like, it's going to be all across the world. Huge, like, Command Fest, GPs. There's going to be a pro circuit. People will be making shows about it. Like, I don't believe they ever foresaw, like, it's, like, popularity.
I remember when I first started in Fallen Empires, but then got competitive during Invasion Block, and I can't tell you how many times people were like, "There's no way this game's going to make it another 5 years. There's no way this game's going to make it another year. Like, it's just going to go the wayside like everything else." And here we are, 30 years later, the game's stronger than it's ever been.
Well, and for everyone who's played for a long time, I'm sure you've heard, this is the set that killed Magic. This is the end of Magic. Oh, this foretell mechanic is the end of Magic. Jeweled Lotus is the end of Magic.
Urza's block was the death to Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Urza's block. It was fantastic. I loved a lot of the cards in there, and they had some of the best lands, in my opinion.
The thing I was saying though with that was that they didn't. You can't foresee how good the future is going to be. Like, when they make suddenly all of a sudden you have. What was her name? Riel the Everwise, right? Where every time you discard cards, you draw that many cards, right? So suddenly Bazaar of Baghdad just becomes a significantly stronger card. For a long time, it was like a not very good rare, very, very similar to Lionized Diamond, right? There was no really use for it until you got things like Dredge decks where you're able to toss your hand out, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is great. I can still play from the graveyard and abuse these cards. So you had all these cards that just, at the time, you didn't really know the use for them or the power of them, and more people want them. And this is why everyone right now keeps hearing about the reserve list, is because there's just a massive price spike with all of them. So we wanted to go over, like, what's on the reserve list, and, like, we wanted to touch on that basic policy of what it is. They won't reprint it, and they won't reprint functional things. They can print Jeweled Lotus because Jeweled Lotus does not function like anything on the reserve list, because nothing on the reserve list is commander specific. So they can make that. They could still make that meme card of Colossal Lotus that is tapped for 6 mana for only Colossal Dreadmoss. It could happen.
That's funny. Like, I feel that we all have a different opinion on the reserve list too. Like, I think it's a very sensitive topic in the community, because I think everyone has their own take on it, because, like, I kind of side more on the collector side of things, and I know a few of you are more on the game centric top of things. And then, actually, this was a big conversation in our Discord.
I never see, like, so if they reprinted Black Lotus tomorrow, right? I don't think the price of an Alpha Black Lotus is ever going to plummet like the price of the Black Lotus that we printed in like an unsanctioned set tomorrow or something stupid like that. The collecting aspect, an alpha card is still always going to be more viable. The same thing we see like with Sarah Angel. Sarah Angels from alpha are still very expensive as opposed to just one out of like one of the core sets.
Yep.
So the collectability is still there. It doesn't, degrade the price or the card or the power. It just makes it more viable for people to get into their hands.
So to give you an example of what you said, an Alpha Black Lotus, there were only 22,800 copies printed.
I think it's lower than that. I think it was, I thought it was only 11,000 total existence because there was only the chase rares, those 22,000 of, I believe that's for the dual lands. And I'm pretty sure that Alpha only has 11,000 to ever exist. I could be wrong on that.
This was on the Wikipedia of the Power 9. They say of each of the Power 9, there were only 22,800 printed.
Yeah, that's in total.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's 22,800 that are still exist. Because a lot of these, it's very rare, but there still are sealed product. There still is sealed product out there. There's still, there are the ones that, Tommy, mom and dad bought Tommy 10 packs of cards and he opened them up and they got thrown in the garbage because back in 93 because they didn't know what they were. Versions that got destroyed in floods or water damage.
And just to kind of reiterate my point, but like with Sarah Angel, like just going off the Star City's website, a Sarah Angel that's sold out right now from Alpha near mint is $700 as opposed to a Sarah Angel from 10th edition as a rare for 59 cents.
Part of that also, though, there's a format called Old School Magic where you can only play with those original printings, and you can't play your 4th edition version in the deck. You can only play Alpha Beta Unlimited. So that before all this crazy reserve list buyout stuff started happening, those cards started creeping up simply because those were the versions that you could play in that format.
But it still reinforces my point, the fact that these cards will still hold their value regardless.
100%.
I did want to. Sorry, I found an answer. I wanted to jump in. 1,100 Alpha Black Lotuses ever existed.
Wow. Okay. So that 22,000, maybe that was Alpha Beta Unlimited.
Yeah, that'll be the total Power 9, which is why they're like so expensive. Is that like for each of those cards there should be around 22,000 that exist, which is not enough.
Nope.
There's only a few hundred. There's only a few 100,000 dual lands of each dual land to ever exist. And like a few 100,000 sounds like a lot, but there's millions of Magic players.
I wonder how many. Well, that doesn't matter. How many Magic players are active Magic players there actually are?
Oh, I think on Arena there's a fair bit. While you guys talk about the reserve list, I'll find out how many active Magic players on Arena.
So the other thing. Go ahead, Zach.
I've always been very frustrated with that because you guys know how I am. I'll proxy stuff, even stuff that I have, just because I like doing, themed arts and what have you. I've always been very frustrated as a Commander player because I want everyone to be on the same page. I want everyone to play whatever they want to play. For a while, I was a very big elitist, and I'm glad I grew out of that because I just want people to play. Like, if you want to sit down and play a stupid tribe that has no support, but you want to play with all the dual lands and everything you possibly can so that it can at least be viable, dude, I don't care if you write on lands that this is, this mountain right here, it's not a mountain, it's actually a Badlands. Whatever. I don't care. I wish that these cards were more accessible to people. That's why I'm such a big proponent of proxies now. I want everyone to play what they want to play. I never want someone to be, locked out of the game because of price. I think that is one of the most frustrating things. We use it to our advantage for sure. When I want to trade for cards, I'm glad these cards have a value. But at the end of the day, if it meant everyone could actually play with dual lands, even if they made gold border ones or something like that, I would 100% be about that product.
Well, what you said right there is, what you said right there is part of their definition. They can still print gold border ones of those cards. Nothing tournament legal, but EDH isn't a tournament format. That's the nice thing about our thing is I don't think there's a way to ever actually truly have EDH be a sanctioned tournament format with 4 players. So gold border cards suddenly aren't a big deal. How often do you see people actually playing unsleeved decks, right? The backing of the card doesn't really matter. I personally love Eclipse sleeves. They're fully blacked out. I love them because I play a lot of the flip cards. Eclipse sleeves are the best sleeves. Katanas are horrible. Get out of here. Just
Dragon
kidding.
Shield.
Sponsor us. Any sleeves.
Yeah,
But no, like I've yet to see a thing. If somebody sat down and they played like a gold border Gaia's Cradle, for instance, I don't know a single player. And again, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I don't know a single player who would have a problem with that, right? Like it's still technically a real card.
It's just
Right.
it's so funny to me because you guys know my love for the gold border cards. Like I have in many, and not even because of price, but I've had in many occasions where I've had the option where I could get a normal version of Blood Crypt or I could get the gold border, and I want the gold border because I just think the gold borders are so cool.
One
the
of our
crazy thing, though, sorry, just real quick, a gold bordered Gaia's Cradle are like $100.
They
Go
are
ahead.
guide for $20.
one of the people we play with has a signed Force of Will gold border, and yeah, they just look so good.
That's awesome.
I
But
love the
going
gold border
back
cards.
to your last thing of how many players are in Magic compared to how many Power 9 were actually released, across 70 countries, there are 35 million players.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So that kind of goes into the biggest problem I personally have with the reserve list is there is nowhere near the supply for even a portion of the demand for it, right? Like people like dual lands. They like to see their decks go off and everything. Dual lands and fancy cards will not make you a better player, but they will make it easier for you
More consistent.
to have your game plan going and stuff, right? That's why most like competitive decks run these lands and not basic lands, right? That's not why I've yet to see a CDH list that runs the guild gates, right? You can color fix for cheap, but like you're paying for the speed. And like I said, there's not a supply for it. You said there's 35 million players or something?
Yeah.
There's not. You couldn't even give like 1% of each player a dual land. Like there's just not enough. Like I said, there's only in the hundreds of thousands of dual lands. It's not millions. There's not 5 million of each. There's a really small. And then obviously the Power 9 is banned in Commander, right? Minus Time Twister. So it's not a huge... Those being reprinted don't really matter so much to us, but a lot of formats would love to have like those Moxes come back. A lot of people would love to play that high power stuff where they can draw the Black Lotus.
If I legit had the accessibility to play Vintage, I would play Vintage.
Vintage is an amazing format.
So I don't.
I've never got to play Vintage, but I've watched a lot of people play Vintage, and it just seems the bonkers stuff that I like about Legacy and Commander, but to 10. Like it seems so cool. But Wizards isn't about supporting these older or these other formats. They would rather Legacy die than give us product that we need.
But
well, they also don't make money on Legacy.
They could.
So I think like Wizards can print something close to it, like give it a different name. Like if it's
they
like,
can't function the same.
It's functionally the same. They can't even do like Wheel of Fortune in blue because it's the same card.
Yeah, like for example, like Winds of Change is one red, everyone discards and has as many cards as they have. That's fine. It doesn't function like Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune is everyone gets 7 new cards. So you're at a great advantage if you can empty your hand minus that, cast it, and then suddenly Brian's got to throw away 7 good cards. We both get 7, right? They can windfall and everyone gets the advantages, but you'll never get a card that's functionally the same, right? Like they're never going to do 2 mana Black Lotus.
I miss playing base Neo Pokemon because we had Professor Oak, and that was Wheel of Fortune. And WotC, it's funny because WotC was printing Pokemon at the time when this card existed, and they didn't change the rules. So that's what you would see. You would see these vintage formats like base Neo for Pokemon doing multiple Wheels of Fortunes a turn, and it was absolutely wild.
Mm-hmm. And like Wheel of Fortune's a great card, but they just like they can't. They tried recently with Wheel of Misfortune, right? But it's like a weird. You got to jump through so many hoops to get the similar kind of effect, and
it's a cool card.
Yeah, it is a cool card, but like one person still kind of gets hosed on it, and like there's not a good solution to it, right? Because both sides of it, collectors want people to not, players want people to generally reprint them and stuff, right? And everyone in between just kind of wants to play Magic. They want to, like, we're going to go over some of the stuff that's actually on the reserve list, and you'll see what I mean, a lot of it is pointless. Like, there's no reason for Mount and Go. We always joke about that card before we did it with Sherman way back in the day. There's no reason that's a reserve list card, right? Like, nobody is like gonna be breaking the game by playing their new Mountain Goats, right? When you look at Birds of Paradise has like an alpha printing. It's still valuable, and people still love Birds of Paradise. Birds of Paradise is a great card in any deck that is more than one color in green, and even in a just green deck. Like,
see, I had a thought when you were mentioning the fact that collectors were worrying about their cards devaluing when they introduct the reserve list. So when did Anti leave? And did Anti have anything to do with it?
I don't think Anti had anything to do with it because Anti wasn't used on like the competitive stage. Like I think Anti's always been banned once they had a competitive format.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was around for a while.
No, but I mean like FNMs and like your Grand Prix and your Pro Tour, there was never Anti on any of those stages. Because the problem you ran into is if you and I played and we put a card up for Anti and I lost my card, my deck is no longer tournament legal. But I don't know how it coincides with Anti, because I know for as long as I can remember, Anti has always been banned in sanctioned play. But that's, as far back as I can remember.
I just wondered if that sparked the argument of valuable in cards.
No, it was straight up. It was fourth edition of Chronicles. Is why this all happened and why the policy came out was because of they printed those sets and it just destroyed the secondary market and people freaked out because they were afraid. Like, and you weren't even talking about like they didn't reprint like Power or anything. They were printing like the legendary dragons and like City of Brass and Blood Moon. And
well, everyone thought those cards were actually good back then.
No, it wasn't that. People were concerned if WotC does this, what's going to stop them from reprinting Duels and Power and these cards that are old and collectible that we own. What's going to stop them from
old and collectible 3 years? Ooh wee.
Yeah, but if you had a $100 card back
go ahead.
then, $100 was a lot of money. Like I remember buying Power for $100, and when you're a 16-year-old kid trying to come up with $100, that's a ton of money.
There's it was banned after 2001.
Anti was?
Yep. Because people played it at the 2001 invitationals because there was no rules enforcement that stopped it at the time.
God,
so after 2001 it was banned. It was last used in Homelands, but yeah, like people it still says in the comprehensive rules that you may play for Anti. It says like you can do this, but not at any WPN place, and it says if it's illegal to play for keeps because it's kind of like gambling, then you can't do it in your country if it's illegal. But that's the comprehensive rules, is that it's still a optional format of Magic.
Maybe it's just because I didn't play the formats where the cards were legal.
That's fair. Yeah, no, they it was a very weird thing to just like take a card from your deck and be like, we're gambling this.
Well, I know like with the reason like we are talking about this is there's been recently a lot of like big spikes in reserve list buyouts, and it's like, in my opinion, we're playing a game. Like, yeah, there's the collectability of it, but and like Zach said, I just want to play the game, and I don't want something like this policy or people speculating on cards or artificially driving up prices of cards. Like most of these guys don't play the game. They're just buying it because they're like, hey, this card's like Lotus and I were talking like Eladamri, Lord of the Leaves. I bought mine about a month ago for $40 and now it's like $140, and that's happened overnight.
Yeah.
A fun thing to know before we talk about like the speculation is Magic cards, especially the Power 9 in particular, have outperformed every stock, interest, and bond, with the exception of Bitcoin, for like the last 15 years.
Yeah,
if you had just invested only in Power 9 cards versus gold on an even basis, you would be significantly richer from Power 9 cards.
Is that strictly buying the Power 9, or is that considering like the people that are buying them and having them graded and selling them for 100 times the value?
Both. Like just all of it. Like the cards of like these prices aren't for graded 10 ones. Like a graded 10 Black Lotus just went for like $570,000.
511,000.
It was 511. Yeah, like that's what I mean, right? Like
That's insane.
The $40,000 price tag on a Black Lotus is just for your common poor man's Black Lotus. That's not a graded 10. Right? Like it's the buy list is because of that like insane, like first and foremost, I want to talk about their thing. They made a promise. They can at any time break the promise. The idea that anyone is going to sue Wizards of the Coast is literally nothing but fantasy. You don't have any standing to do so. You would have to prove that you like bought these cards with like the intent to invest and stuff. And you know what I mean? Like you'd have to, like I said, you'd have to show that you were damaged by it, right? Well, and what a Black Lotus is, like all my cards, I didn't pay for any of these cards even near the value and stuff. We were talking about, I have like multiple time twisters. One of them's a beta one. There is nothing that could ever make me pay a fraction of what it is worth right now. Like I could win the lottery and I would not spend, it's $32,000 for like a beta one right now. Wouldn't do it, right? So how would I go about showing Wizards that they damaged me? Like I don't have a receipt from when I was like collecting cards when I was in 1997. Like
it doesn't even matter. It'd be like buying Toyota stock and then Toyota tomorrow saying, "Hey, we're going out of business. Your stock's useless."
So
sorry,
like
you shouldn't have bought it.
You could try, but like the cost to try to sue Wizards versus Wizards and Hasbro, who, as every corporation does, they pay for lawyer. Like they're not paying legal fees. They like pay lawyers salaries for the year to be on that. Like they have no problem. You have to go to them. You might class action lawsuit them, and they might lose $100 million, few $100 million, but it's going to equate to like a $5 payout. It's not worth everyone's time to try and actually sue them. Like no matter, game stores would be hosed. They would lose a lot of money in general. But Wizards has so much money that they can just be like, we're going to give you free boxes for the next year. Enjoy.
Done deal.
Right? Like it, you know what I mean? Like Wizards can easily make them whole. Like they can easily be like, you know what? Like we're breaking the reserve list, but like we are going to give each game store owner foil version of every value card on it printed as a we're sorry, one of a kind. Here's this. Like nothing stops them from doing alternate art things. Nothing stops them from doing small, really cool things like their Christmas gifts, like the top deck of the halls, for example. They can do whatever they want. They could give everyone like have you guys seen their like soul, the one, it's like the dragon they gave to the employees and stuff. Yeah, like They could give every game store owner one of those, be like, here, this is yours. You can sell it whatever you want to make up your money. Like nothing stops them from saying sorry, where it's only their promise, right? So the only reason that they actually haven't broken the reserve list is because they don't need to. But like every year that there's more and more like counterfeit cards, because like that is what like a lot of proxies are. There's definitely support like people that are like making your alternate arts of like full art dual lands and stuff like that. Things that like they function that way. We can all tell what it is. It's supposed to be a volcanic island. But there is a really big problem with like people printing like exact replica copies, especially of those old cards. There's no holograph. There's not the security features of new stuff. People are just making counterfeit cards, and Wizards is going to eventually, they can't have it go on forever, right? You're never going to stop the problem of people printing $5 sets of dual lands that look functionally the same until you yourself start supplying those dual lands again.
Yeah, give people a reason not to shop.
People just want that and stuff. And those cards, those counterfeit cards are really, really dangerous to like new collectors and new players who don't understand, because everyone has that like story of like, oh, like, you know, like I was looking through this old collection and there was a Mox in it and stuff. You didn't get a Mox for like $10 with like a bunch of M10 cards, like,
no,
right? Like
I don't
there's
even really think though that like if they were to break the reserve list tomorrow, I don't even think stores would really lose out, because if they were to break it tomorrow, that means that they're going to print product that has these cards in it.
You could not keep boxes in stock.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like if you put like the inventions or the invocation style,
mm-hmm.
If you put dual lands in boxes like that, those would never even, you would pre-sell out of those before the whole set was spoiled. They could just say, this is what the next set's box topper potential is. It'd sell out. It would not matter what was in it. People would go crazy.
Not to
It's me
throw
on
shade at, I was gonna say not to throw shade at you and your brothers, but look what happened with Commander Legends at your store.
Yeah, we bought my store out.
Could you imagine if, all right, next core set, you know, the like you said, the box topper could be one of the dual lands?
My one of my little brothers, he opens cards in what I think is a hilarious way, but it like makes a lot of people angry. He'll go and like buy like boxes of like Kaladesh, Amonkhet, like any of those things, and he will stand at the counter, like crack, look at the rare, drop the cards, and that's it. And like he doesn't keep any of them. He doesn't look through it. He's only looking for inventions, and he'll do that probably once or twice a week. He'll just go to a store, buy a box, and he's just trying to find inventions.
Wow.
I don't even think that anymore. I don't think the stores would be damaged by the abolishment of the reserve list, because most stores are getting bought out. Like two of my like super local stores, they have nothing on the reserve list in their store because they're continuously bought out. And then one of my good buddies owns a store, and he has a customer that's on a standing order, if you want to call it that whenever a reserve list comes in, he just puts it aside and the guy buys it. Sight unseen, doesn't matter the condition, doesn't matter the cost, he just buys it.
Yeah. There's some people, they care about collecting those cards, or they play those formats, right? Like they know that they're going to be expensive, and they're willing to drop like $1,000, $2,000 to get those dual lands so other people can't have them.
And I mean, even a lot of stores like your Power now, most stores don't have that kind of capital laying around that somebody walks in with a $42,000 beta twister to buy that twister. Like, I don't know many stores that have, $25,000 liquid cash to buy a single card that they might sit on for a year or 2 years or 3 years.
But the thing is, the way that like store economies work is they're not paying that for it. You bring in a $30,000 card, and they'll say, I'm going to give you $10,000. Oh no, they wouldn't give you 20 for most like high value cards. Anything like over 1,000, most places will only offer you like 50% of its value.
If they even offer anything at all, they might just pass on it because they don't have the.
Yeah, they might say no.
Yeah.
They might say you can have 60% of its value in like credit overall, but like you're never gonna. That's why you see so many of these things getting listed for the prices, and that's another big reason that the prices look so high. It's individual sellers listing these cards, not stores, because stores can't keep them in. Stores put them up for what is a reasonable price for the store, and that's why they go. But like, I'm not a store. I'm just Daniel from like Alberta. So if I put my card up and I want it I want to put my twister up for $32,000, it's not hurting me for it to not sell. Like it's not something that I'm waiting for, right? So that's why you see those, and then people average the price out based on like what is listed. They see, well, this is $32,000. I'm going to list mine for $29,000. Then suddenly, well, $25,000, and then okay, $25,000 is the going rate, and then all of a sudden these cards just go up and up and up because you can't keep them in stores because stores try and sell at a reasonable price.
Yeah,
and they're gone.
Yeah,
that's what happened with my Wheel of Fortune. Like I got tired of it. Honestly, I didn't need it, and I saw how it spiked. So I was like, I'd rather have new product and build a new commander deck than hold on to it. I took it into my LGS, and they looked at it in the condition, and my buddy was just like, I don't want to lowball you on this, but he's like, I don't know that I can buy this because I don't think I can make any money off of it because of how expensive it is.
Well, and let's be honest, no one's seen Black Lotuses in their store cases. You'd have to have like bulletproof glass to do that, because glass isn't going to stop you, and a $40,000 like grab and go is not something people are gonna.
It's a really
like,
good payoff.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
it's pretty easy to bust a cabinet and then go to a GP 2 states away and hawk it, or go to a store 2 states away and hawk it,
or hold it for 4 years and let it go up $7,000 more dollars. Like,
yeah,
or send it off and get it graded and then sell it for 100 times the price.
Sell it to a prince in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so like we'll talk a little bit about we're going to talk about our like individual thoughts on it. I'm pretty sure, spoiler alert, everyone knows mine, but I wanted to go over like Wizards did a few things. So like we want to do what their first list was, and then the 2 revisions, why they had to make these revisions, and again, why you're never going to sue them if they break the list, because they've broken it many times and no one has ever successfully sued them for it, because you can't. Spoiler alert, you cannot do it. It won't work. So their first list was all cards from Alpha and Beta that had not appeared in 4th edition or Ice Age, all uncommon and rare cards from Arabian Nights and Antiquities that hadn't been reprinted in white border at the time, and all rares from Legends and the Dark that had not been reprinted in white border.
Sure.
So,
And then,
go ahead.
do you want me to touch the next one, or do you want to?
Yeah, just go through the editions. So we're actually just going through like the Magic Wiki has like a pretty decent like write up of what's on it, and because it is some long articles to go through. So we just wanted to do the summary. Yeah. So you go with the subsequent editions.
So they reserve the right to reprint cards from Fallen Empires, Ice Age, and Homelands, and subsequent limited edition or limited expansion sets, as well as cards from Chronicles, in order to maintain the collectability of these products. However, they would reprint in white border no more than 25% of the rarest cards. And then in conjunction with the release of each new core set, such as 5th edition, WotC would announce which sets were considered eligible to have cards from them rotated into the core set, and any rare card from those sets not rotated into the core set at the time would become a reserved card and thus would never be printed again. So that's how you're going to get some of these really wonky cards on this reserve list, because they didn't make the reprint in a core set.
So how
Interesting.
did my question is, how did we get that black enchantment from Arabian Nights that every Pauper player wanted in the Double Masters? Ubulette, that's what it is.
Because it was reprinted.
It had already had a reprint.
So then
I thought it was only
qualify.
printed in Arabian Nights. Well, what do they reprint it in?
I can't remember, but it's another old one.
No, you know why? It's because it was a common in Arabian Nights. So it was all uncommon and rare cards from Arabian Nights that had not been reprinted at the time.
Gotcha. Okay.
So because it doesn't hit that, it was then eligible for a reprint.
I just assumed it was an uncommon because it wasn't uncommon in Double Masters. I didn't know what the actual rarity was. That makes a lot more sense now.
Well, then you do have some sets that, like, where they talk about Chronicles and Homelands, and Fallen Empires don't have rares. They have uncommon 1 and uncommon 2. So they have more uncommon, or they have a rarer uncommon and a more common uncommon.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's odd.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I think they should have just started the mythic rare stuff sooner, but that's what they were wanting to do, you know.
Well, that was their chase to make more money, but that's a different topic for a different day.
So like in 2002, they like changed up a little bit with Mercadian masks. Commons and uncommons from limited were removed from it due to the overwhelming public support for this change, which everyone still supports. Everyone but Brian. But so it said the exception was Pharaoh's Bands from Homeland, which was reprinted in 5th edition, but mistakenly still on the list at the time. It was also removed. Then their 2010 revision policy is the original policy only applied to non-premium cards, meaning that reserve list cards could still be printed as premium exclusive cards, like your foil Gaia's Cradle. So when it was applied to the dual decks Phyrexia versus the Coalition and from the Vault Relics, the Magic's community reaction were to a large extent negative, because Magic players are babies. I will say it all. Everyone likes to complain about everything, and it just is what it is. So starting in 2011, no cards on the reserve list would be printed in either premium or non-premium form after that. So they're just like, fine, we won't make your special cool cards because you guys cry. So first off,
that I'm fine with that.
Toxic to Wizards all the time.
Yeah, like I'm fine with that. Like if they want to print something but in a different art and like say like a foiling, because a lot of the older cards didn't have foils. Like if they want to do that, like I would be fine as long as it's not like the same art and things like that. That's where I think some of the value lies.
So like the Force of Will box stopper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think Force of Will is actually even on the list.
No,
No,
it's not.
but it was an example.
Like it's an extra artwork of something that's like different, right?
Well,
And
all the from the vaults.
yeah, well, and old Force of Will doesn't like, it's not like a $10 card suddenly because they reprinted it. It's still pricey.
It's actually, I think, worth more than the non-foil, non-full ordered version of Force of Will. So like your regular basic Force of Will that was reprinted in like Double Masters, it's worth less than the Alliance's version.
I hate Force of Will, so I don't care. I think it's
I only play white counter spells, so
there you go.
But yeah, so like first off, they did remove a bunch of things from the reserve list, and everyone's like, "Yay, this is great!" And then they're like, "We're gonna print these like cool versions," and then people threw a big tantrum, just like they do every time they print anything. Every set, can you guys stop? Every set is jeweled Lotus. Needs to be banned. Like, let's see how the cards are before we all publicly blow up about everything.
You know what I
It's like
miss?
it's such a pet peeve of mine that like every card they're like, this breaks the game, this wrecks the whole game, can't get this. Like play them first. Play them. Don't spend your day yelling at wizards. They get it.
I really wish Wizards would go back to printing dual decks and From the Vaults. Those are my two favorite products.
Ooh, I gotta disagree there. Their dual deck replacements are so good. These commander precons, oh, so good. I
still love them, and or even if they didn't redo dual decks, like give me back From the Vaults and premium decks. Like I got into Legacy because I got 4 Graveborns for Christmas one year.
That's fair.
Dual deck, Commander Edition.
I'm with you, Zach. I love the From the Vault stuff.
I also really did like the From the Vault, but I think the reason they stopped is they just sat for too long at a lot of places. I think a lot of store owners were really unhappy with them because
initially they were amazing, but then they just like some of them were just like, why would I buy this? It's just full of garbage.
I think now though, like I think with the kind of collectability that, because I mean obviously Magic has always been a collectible card game, but I think since we've seen so many more different versions of cards, and now it's like a normal thing to have secret layer versions, to have showcase arts and alternate arts, whatever. I think From the Vaults cards would do better now than what they used to do, because now the market is like used to it. You know what I mean?
let's be honest, they still do have From the Vault. They just call them Secret Lair, and they come very
I was
thorough.
just gonna say.
Yeah, like now the stores don't get them. Wizards sells them specifically, and like I said, their foiling is horrendous.
And they're probably at print on demand. I'm not sure if that's the case.
From the Vault's printing was better. Their foiling was better.
I love the From the Vault foils, and everyone complains about them all the time. I thought that they look so good.
Concern so I used to play very, very competitive Magic, and the problem, the From the Vaults were noticeably thicker, and you could, to some degree, say they were marked inside decks because you could feel the difference in the sleeve.
Interesting. I don't think I ever noticed.
Still only drawn from the top, though. Drawing a thicker card from the top, I feel like wouldn't matter because I always present my deck to be cut. So
yeah, but sometimes you can cut
in an official tournament. If a card is physically different in the deck,
it
would be mate marked, just in case someone could tell from the shuffle.
We did I want to say it was Modern. We went to a Modern tournament, and I had one From the Vault card in my deck because I could not find a regular version. And at the F&M beforehand, we were shuffling the deck, and every single time you could present the deck and I could cut to it. And I ended up having the next day go to the GP, I think it was a GP. I had to go to the GP and find a version of the card to replace it with, because I was like, I can cut to this every single time.
Well, it's like the recent GP, not recent because it's a few years ago now, but Nexus of Fate. GPs around my way were actually giving out proxies because every single one was warped.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want to go over like how do we?
I'm going to quickly touch on the sets that that have reserve list cards in them.
Sure.
So we have the limited editions. We have Arabian, Antiquities, Legends, the Dark, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Homelands, Alliances, Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight, Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus, Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, Urza's Destiny. And then things that recently came off, there's like a really short list of things that came off in 2002. That's Basalt Monolith, Camouflage, Clone, Consecrate Land, Copper Tablet, Demonic Tutor, Dwarven Demolition Team, Earthbind, False Orders, Guardian Angel, Ice Storm. Yeah, try pull these up, Brian. Invisibility, Jade Statue, Juggernaut, and Juggernaut's been printed in everything. Lance, Living Wall, Nettling Imp, Psionic Blast, Regrowth, Resurrection, Sacrifice, Sinkhole, Pharaoh's Band. So, like, not exciting things that actually came off. Minus Basalt Monolith, of course, because Basalt Monolith is great.
Demonic Tutor?
I was going to say, Demonic Tutor
is great.
That's bigger than
Basalt 2 cards.
Regrowth is very good.
No, but there's some sets like Mirage and Homelands. They have no business being on that. There's nothing good in those sets.
Well, we keep coming back to like the value of it and stuff. They're always going to be, it's always going to be valuable to have cards that weren't printed a lot, regardless of like their new sets. Really good example is Arabian Nights Mountains are expensive because they just didn't have a lot of mountains in the set for some weird reason. So like they've always been expensive, but like literally like who pays for basic lands? Let's be real.
You
go to your
because
store
you
and just
have
say,
them.
Hey, you go to your store and say, "Hey, can I have some lands?" And they usually throw them at you.
See, I buy every basic land in every one of my deck is like full art, like they're premium basics. I don't use any.
Yeah, if there's
The-
snow lands. I
the
couldn't do
only-
that. That'd be too crazy.
That's because
The-
you have like 275 decks.
The only specific basic lands I ever went out of my way to get were a specific swamp in foil from what set was that? It was an Urza set, I want to say, because it looked like Urborg. And
For
those
me,
were-
the only one I've ever done is the Morning Tide and like Shadowmoor ones. I love those lands, those swamps and islands.
those are very good.
Yep.
Those are really good ones. Those are my favorite basic lands, if anyone's wondering, except for the new snow land from
So-
Kaldheim. I really like that owl.
I knew you
Mine-
were gonna say that.
My favorite land's the Urza Saga Forest.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
I
is-
love
that is
all
a
the
good one.
Saga basics.
So I did want to go over just some of the like silly prices on some of the recent cards. Like we're just gonna quickly touch on why, like what these prices are, because like it's very easy to say like, oh yeah, the reserve list prices are too high and stuff. We're gonna skip anything that's like not legal to us, but like we'll just like start it right off with the first one, Tabernacle. Tabernacle is legal in EDH. It's $10,000 now. Why?
I ain't buying it.
Ridiculous.
Why? The Mists of Pendrell Vale is like still like that's another reserve list card, but it's like price Mages of the Tabernacle is like $1, as a creature. Why is this a $10,000 card? I understand rarity, but like unless you owned one before, you're not playing this. Like if you wanted to play Tabernacle, it's a very annoying card. I will be the first person to admit it. I've never seen someone
100%.
happy that I put down a like you Tabernacle. For anyone who doesn't know and has good friends, it's all creatures require an upkeep cost of 1 in addition to like other upkeep costs they have. If you can't, they're destroyed. So if you can make your creatures indestructible, not your problem. And if you're playing like a sacrifice deck that recurs things, like you're playing a Theros, for instance, and you want people to be like, hey, do you want to pay 30 life or can I have these cards back? Right? Then it's not a problem. But for a normal game, like if you put this down against an elf deck, like you don't have friends anymore.
Yeah, Dan.
But
It's a card I like.
there's functional reprints of it. Except it's not a land, it's a creature.
Yeah.
But you have Magus of the Tabernacle, which is currently at $1.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's
like
not a functional reprint then because it's a creature.
No, what I'm saying is you can get the same effect.
the same effect, yeah. But then you have things like, again, another high value card on the list. We have Mishra's Workshop from Antiquities at $7,000. Why? That's
honestly,
you know what I mean? Like I understand it's rare, but like it taps to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool only for artifacts. We play like theme-based decks. Like there's lots of like Duretti decks. There's lots of like Urza. Of course, Urza needs more mana, but you know what I mean? Like people would like this. People would like to play with a card like this because there's many artifact decks that would really be able to go off with this one land. And you can't tell me that this is like more broken than like a Serra Sanctum in like different situations. You can't like Serra Sanctum, Gaia's Cradle, any of those things. Like it's not a game-breaking card. It's a very strong card.
Didn't Mishra's Workshop get a reprint though? Like I feel
Sure didn't.
no.
Sure didn't. Only in
You're thinking of Factory.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
Yeah,
easy to
like-
confuse the two.
Urza's land, power plant, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it in I have a proxy of it in my Karn deck, and it is very powerful. It's great. But it's one of those things, like you said, like I'm in a colorless artifact deck.
Yeah, you need some support.
Yeah, like that's really the only place you're going to see it, because otherwise it's a useless land.
Yeah, it doesn't even like, it's not even like, hey, this is great for Eldrazi to ramp to them. They're not artifacts. Like it's not for colorless spells. You're not dropping Ugin with this.
No.
Like
Yeah.
you said, exactly. Like it's for like a Karn Silver Golem deck. I have one. It's in Brutaclad. It's not even a good deck. It just is full of artifacts. Like it's fun to play cards that have them. And like again, the issue I have is that the reserve list. So I'll get into my big gripe with the reserve list. They're all legal cards. If your problem is the card, then the card shouldn't be legal and stuff, right? It's really easy to say like, hey, like Mishra's Workshop, Mishra's Workshop Ahoy would break the game, you know? Like if you say like, oh yeah, okay, like this is a fundamentally unfun card to play against. It wrecks it. It gives too much advantage. Like therefore, I don't believe it should be in the game. That's a very different argument than you don't deserve it, peasant. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like they're very, very different points. And that's my big problem with it is like none of these cards are illegal. Well, some are like not like the Power 9, for example, but most of these are format legal. You just like they're legal, but just like for better people, you know, like people who can afford to play the game for so long. Like it doesn't matter how much you individually love the game. You didn't love it 20 years ago, so you don't deserve to love it like I do. You don't deserve it. I have a problem with that, right? Like
it feels very gatekeeper-esque.
Well, you know what I mean? I have for anyone who's like seen me stream it, a lot of times when I play like everyone on stream, I play my group hug deck with Kenrith. It runs all of the dual lands. I think I've won one game with that deck out of like the probably 50, 60 games I've played with it. It's not meant for that. It's like meant to have fun. It goes off. Like I do lots of cool things with it, but like I'm not like doing broken things with it. Like,
yeah, you're not playing Gingy Texas.
Yeah, like people want to play the game, and a lot of the problem with this is that like other people get to play the game, and you just get to like have like worse versions of it available. Because like, oh yeah, like, well, there's always the argument of, well, you can get around it this way, or like there's other options. But like the point is like, it would be nice if we could all put dual lands in our decks and like just like have them be a normal thing. We'd be happy with that. If duels had like the price tag of like shocks or even expensive shocks, even if they were $50 cards, people would still really like it. It would upgrade the ability to play their deck. You're not going to run it in everything, but you might be able to just have that little more consistency in 3-color decks. Most of the most popular commanders are 3 or more colors. Like you've got Najeela, you have Muldrotha, Golos is one of the most popular. Like people like to play more colors, and the barrier to that is the price tag. The price tag of a functional land base. Yeah, you can do guild gates and hope that you draw an Amulet of Vigor turn 1.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think fundamentally we play a game.
And that's my big issue. It's a game. Yes. Like I want to play. I don't want to get together at the country club with some rich friends and, you know, like have some martinis. No, I want to.
That would be kind of fun though.
I just want to play with like my other friends who like love this game. Like I want to see like what their best idea is. Not like, hey, like it's between fixing my car or getting Candelabra of Tawnos, you know?
Yeah, like looking at some of these prices of these cards, like a Tundra and Underground Sea, I, for one, will never own one in my lifetime. Because I'm assuming these prices are American dollars, not our moose bucks.
But they're also, I think a lot of the prices you're probably seeing though are also Alpha Beta Unlimited, not revised. But even revised duels I don't think you can touch a revised duel for under $300 now, and all the good ones are closer to like $600, $700, $800 for a dual land. Like I have my Rada deck. I was looking at possibly getting a Taiga, and Taigas are like $450, and I was like, nope.
A revised Underground Sea at the moment with the current buyout is $1,250.
Wow,
that's stupid.
I'm so glad I got my 3 lands for Negan when I was playing Legacy.
Gaia's Cradle, $1,100.
That's stupid.
A limited Brain Geyser, $1,000. Why? Sorry guys, we had a quick glitch in the recording there. Lotus, go ahead and jump back into that point you were making.
Yeah, so in regards to players deserve to play with these reserve list cards, Wizards actually say on their actual website, word for word, we choose to reprint cards because we believe A, the cards we reprint make for an enjoyable gameplay, and B, all Magic players deserve an opportunity to play with these cards. any card that isn't on the reserve list may be reprinted. So it's kind of like, yes, you deserve to play with absolutely everything except these.
Well, and yeah, we were talking, like I said, we just had to restart part of it there. We had a glitch in my program. But just in general, people want to get these cards. You just don't have a spot to go get them. It's not that you don't want to buy packs. It's not that. It's you literally have to go back so long, longer than many players have been alive. You'd have to go back to like be able to like just access these cards in any meaningful way, right? Because like currently just hoping that they're in a store or online is not meaningful, right? They're not accessible. That's my big problem, is that you just can't get them. Where do you get them?
So the reserve list basically goes against everything that they said in that paragraph.
Except for the reserve list.
Yeah. They've even asterisked their own statement.
Like
So
that's funny.
We were kind of talking during the pregame show about if they were to abolish the reserve list or start to let things off of it, how would you introduce it back into the game? And like we were even talking. No. We were even talking like fetch lands. Like if they don't want fetch lands in standard. They've banned them in Pioneer because they don't want them around. But if you were to put a fetch land, like let's say a Scalding Tarn, I think Scalding Tarns are still $100. If you were to put a Scalding Tarn in a Commander product, all the modern players would just buy up all the Commander product because they would pay $60 for the deck to get their $100 card.
Oh yeah.
So
well,
if you
they're already doing for the dock side.
If you were to take something like a dual land and you were to say, okay, we're going to reprint the duels, but we clearly don't want them in standard. So we're not going to put them in a standard legal set. We're going to put them in a Commander product. You would never be able Commander players would never be able to get the Commander product. Unless you're in bed with your FLGS and they hook you up, because it would be gone. And they would, like, the second they hit the shelves, all the legacy players or all the people who want to play legacy would buy them up to get them for their format.
I think they would just have to bring back gold border cards. Like that's, I think, the only way to really do it efficiently. Like
Either that or like Secret Lair dual lands, and you just go on Wizard set and you buy your $100 pack of 10 dual lands.
Well, the problem with that though is that they wouldn't be able to print to demand. Is a lie to them. Every Secret Lair is 6 months late because there's too much demand. And that's like with like silly things. That's like, oh, here's some landfall cards from Zendikar. Here's an Alt Art Royal Elemental.
Yeah,
you jam like Plateau into it. Good luck. You've just like made that take. That's my winter 2024 drop.
But you know what? If I could pay $30 to get a Plateau, I'd wait a year.
No, I'd still complain about that. Me earlier in the episode, stop complaining at Wizards. Me when my Secret Lair is a day late. Where is it?
It's just if they were to take, abolish the reserve list. Some of these, who cares? Like you could put Mountain Goat in the next 25 core sets and nobody would bat an eye, and it wouldn't change anything. Whatever, but you get my point. Like some of these that are just
it's useless cards being reprinted.
Well, but there's going to be that in every set ever. But you get my point. Like some of these cards are not good enough that it would matter. But if you take cards that are good, like how do you get them back into the hands of the masses?
Format specific sets.
I do really like the idea of gold border, but gold border then only fixes the problem for us, right? And like as much as we all love our format and it's the best format and all the other formats aren't good, the other formats also kind of want these cards as well. And like if you make them not tournament legal, then that's pretty much like saying like EDH players kind of eat your hearts out.
The only problem though, even with gold bordered and like we touched on proxies, though, is if you go to a Grand Prix and you want to play in one of their,
you can play gold border at Grand Prix.
Can you?
Yep, they're just not tournament legal. EDH has no tournaments.
But when you're paying money at an event,
that's
I'm not talking like, okay, I wasn't aware. I it's been so long, and I didn't think you could even use gold bordered. Like,
and Wizards can give you a proxy at the event, like if your card becomes damaged or like you were saying with the Nexus of Fate example, right? It's really easy for them to just be like, hey, here you go.
I mean, it would be cool to reserve list gold border like the world champ decks, except it's the reserve list deck.
I wish they would do the world champ decks again. I think those are so cool. They're another thing that I wish I would have been around playing when they were coming out, not for the value, but just because I thought it was a very interesting deck. They do it all the time with Pokemon. Pokemon gets world champ decks all the time.
I think they stopped because they weren't super popular, because
those are one of the first things I played with.
Well, but back then, back when they really were around, Commander really didn't exist. So you were just buying them to just play the best deck with your buddy, when you could, most competitive people had all the cards and played those decks. So it's kind of...
I'm just curious if a product like that now would be more viable, if people would be more interested, you know what I mean? If we would be given, these world championship decks from a specific year, and suddenly it has 2 or 3 fetch lands in it, and the Force of Will or City of Traders or something like that we've seen in earlier decks. Would people be more interested in them now? I would probably buy those.
People at the local game store we are buy the Challenger decks, and they're really watered down versions of top tier standard decks.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Those are.
They actually are pretty solid ones. I've bought them just to play a few standard events when I'm bored.
They have shock lands in them.
The Commander Anthology sets come back. Those were
pretty great ones. Yeah.
Those are what got me into Commander. I picked that up for $150. Got 4 decks out of it, and away we went. Now I'm here.
The reserve list as well. It's going to be interesting to see where they actually go with it. I personally think that they're going to break it. They've been, in my opinion, testing the waters on public outcry when they are printing things that are similar. We just saw the Jeweled Lotus. We just saw the Kaldheim Snow Duels. We saw the Triome lands, right? I think they are trying to push and see what people would like. And you know what I mean? Like I said, if it's 1% of the player base or 2% or 5% that are mad, but 35 million people start buying more product, that the money talks to Wizards, right? So I think they're undoubtedly going to break it. And I also believe that Magic is moving away from tournament formats. And I am our competitive player of the group when it comes to EDH and stuff. I love playing the competitive games, but I've outwardly said many times there's no future for a tournament-based 4-man EDH game. You're not going to play CEDH with 4 people because it's too easy for me to... I've got Fall of the Titans on the stack. I have 40 damage to Brian and 40 damage to Zach. And Zach on his way out, Cyclonic Rifts, I end up losing the game because someone else. It's too chaotic of a format to be able to spite play people. Zach can't stop the Fall of the Titans, but he decides he's going to exile my commander, or he's going to blow up my Gaia's Cradle, so I can't do it on the way out. It's too easy to spite play people, and it's too chaotic. Everyone else answers your problems for you. You're not really doing anything yourself.
I don't like that you insinuated I would ever play Cyclonic Rift.
No, but
I'm not okay with that. I get that redacted.
Zach's a good man. Brian plays the Cyclonic Rift. But that's what I mean, right? In a chaos format, it's too... I just think that there's too much potential for spite, and that is what it is. 100%. It's a spite play.
100%.
Yeah, it's too easy to... I can't win, but I can beat you. It's too many of that format.
Right? I like being spiteful.
But I think it shows people's characteristics, because as I'm going out, I usually go, do you know what? I could do this. I could be spiteful. I could beast within this creature or something along those lines. But typically I won't, because I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to be out of the game. I should have no impact on what's currently happening.
I'm the dead opposite. If I'm going out, I want to wreck the game as much as I can.
Yeah, a really good example is you're swinging Azuri Claw of Progress, right? Every turn you're buffing your creatures. You swing out to kill me. I have 3 blockers. 3 of them, for some reason, have Death Touch. You swing out at me. I just kill your 3 best creatures on the way out. There's nothing I'm doing is stopping me from dying. I'm still taking your Craterhoof 100+ creatures. But I just take your 3 best creatures out on the way with me because, why not? Right? That's why I don't think that EDH is ever going to have a tournament circuit. I don't really know what the future of a competitive one would be. And 1v1 EDH is so watered down and boring. If you play with the full EDH list, that's what I like to do. It's a great time. But every time you see any 1v1 EDH like format, even Tiny Leaders is a good example. They ban everything combo worthy. They ban all fast explosive plays. Like they don't want to see like a turn 1 mana crypt. They don't want to see a Soul Ring, right? You don't want to have like an Edgar Markov in your one-on-one like dual commander. Everyone always wants these more. They try and make it a competitive format and then water it down so that you can't like explosively play. I don't see a solution to real fun like competitive games, like short of watering them down to like mid-range, like, you know, turn 8, turn 9 combat win things. You're not going to see it. Everyone's going to play their one land a turn, pass it on, and
Every deck's a Jund deck.
Well, the format is a casual format. It was designed that way. We build our decks to combat 4 people and to play that kind of a format. And when you like, if you're going to play 1v1 competitive, why wouldn't you just play standard, modern, or pioneer?
well, yeah, something that actually has prizing support. I will say our local game store does have one version of like a tournament EDH, which is so fun. That's the big game.
Mega
I would love to.
Commander.
Yeah, I would love to do We got to do an episode just on Mega Commander, even a short one. It's such a fun format, but like, I would love to do like a big GP event where there was like 200 people playing a Mega Commander game.
No.
That would be fun.
There'd be
Yeah,
like
they gave-
there'd be like 99 turns going all at once.
You'd
That'd be
start the event on Friday, and it would end on Friday the next week.
Oh, it
no.
ends much quicker than that. The basis of it is that like you can only see players X amount of distance, and there's multiple turns coming in. But like if like right now there's 5 of us on screen, for instance, right? I'd be able to see everyone. But if there was a 6th person and I killed Brian, that 6th person is suddenly in the game. And if they haven't been like affected by like my stacks pieces or something, and they just come in and they're on 20 lands for some reason, then like you're tapped out because you killed Brian, and suddenly like he's like, oh, I have Merit Lage with haste. Go.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, like it's like players come into play, and like I said, you're not paying attention because you're only really playing it with the people in vision, right? You can't affect them. Board wiping. If I board wipe everyone here, and then like Brian dies the next turn to his mana crypt flip or something,
And someone comes into like 100 elves.
yeah, someone rolls in like a zombie deck. They're playing like Jissa, and they have like
Jesus.
50. Yeah, exactly. They just
So,
roll
but
in.
if you're 2 away, so like if I was the middle and I could see Brian and I could see you, Dan, but then Brian would be affected by me and 2 other people that weren't you and Zach.
Yes, exactly. So Brian is seeing
Oh,
different
crap.
people. Yes. So like if there's like if there's like I said, the 5 of us, I could see everyone, but I couldn't see, like, for instance, if Lotus is like player 5 and Zach is player 1, I could not see who is beside Lotus. I could not see who is beside Zach. And if either of them die for some reason, the people beside them just come into frame with whatever they have out, with whatever like. So suddenly, like, you have a Torbrand deck that has a Fiery Emancipation because no one in that field could deal with him, or.
So what I want to do is I want to play a deck that makes an infinitely large walking ballista and just be like,
No.
okay, I'll kill Brian.
No.
The next
Very,
person
very,
dies.
very,
I'll kill
very
them. The
fun.
next-
So very, very fun with that. As soon as a player dies, the stack gets exiled, and they exile 1 permanent of yours.
Sorry. No. The stack doesn't exile. You either get to exile something off of the stack or a permanent.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
like
God.
every ability. Oh, and because it's a prize-based format, you only get a money prize if the person to the left of you dies. So like I said, in a Fall of the Titans situation, if Zach is to the left of me, Brian's to the left of me, and I kill both at the same time, like if Zach is number 1, Brian's number 2, I will only get the prizing for killing Zach because they die at the same time, and Zach, even though he dies, will be the person who gets the Brian prize.
Just don't ask me to judge this.
No,
It is so fun. It is like the
seems
most.
fun, but it also seems like a massive headache.
I'm so
Oh,
confused.
It
I'm-
goes really, really fast. Actually,
Like, it's a normal, like, basically we played, I think, a 15-player game, and it was still done in an hour and a half.
Okay, so if we ever do Commander the Vacationing, we're gonna try to get some extra people to come up and play this format.
when you guys come down for a visit, like you and Benson and stuff, and Zach and Lotus, get over here. Yeah, we will. Like, our LGS will play this game. Like, we will have like a 20-man game, no problem.
All right.
It's very fun. Like I said, I am horrible to play with. I bribe players. $20 to kill Zach. Let's go.
I'm done. Zach, we're fighting.
I don't know what I've done to anger everyone, but okay.
But on that note, we should abolish the reserve list.
Yeah, so I just wanted to end off with like our own personal thoughts on the reserve list, like because everyone's there. There's no right or wrong answer. It's either like you don't agree or you're wrong. But
there's definitely a right or wrong answer.
Yeah. We'll just go in order. Ryan, you start us off here with like how you feel about the reserve list in general.
I like parts of it and I don't like it. I think that most cards should be accessible to all. I just want to play Commander and I want people to play cards and I want to have access to cards so I can build more stuff and do more stuff. I think they should just revise it and maybe put some of the, the things that we have on our ban list, just keep them on there, like the power and stuff. They don't need to come off of it, but like dual lands and some of the stupid stuff, just take it off and get it back into the hands of players so we can enjoy more formats.
Lotus?
So I was on the fence. I was definitely against it. And then being a judge, I get judge promos, which aren't the reserve list-esque, but they're still a limited product, but you can get alternate versions on the actual market. So I kind of actually like the reserve list in that instance, but I do believe that some cards need to be revised and come off it.
Brian, you can go next here.
So I was on the fence as well, or no, I was more on like 1 foot on the side of I like the reserve list and maybe like my legs starting to go over. But like I get my cards at a certain price, and I do like to collect. Like I like to collect certain cards, like certain artwork, like the expeditions and the artifacts, like or the invocations and things like that. Like I love those cards. Mm-hmm. I think that if we were to get reserved list cards, that we should have them in a special type of art if they were to be reprinted.
So they're still like kind of collectible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, like you won't get them in the same art that we previously printed them in. That'll stay the same, but maybe in this new set coming out, we will have special art with a special border, and there's only so many. So they're still collectible. They're still a little bit harder to get. But
I think if they were to be reprinted anyways, they'd have to have new art right off the bat, because I believe artists of a certain like era in Magic have the rights to their art. That's why we don't see like Demonic Tutor as it is now versus how it was.
Yeah, I do think you're right that like the Wizards owns this came much later.
Mm-hmm. So I think you would get your wish on that one, Brian.
100%. There's actually some cards that the artists did not take a...
I think Ryan froze there.
He is old.
Can you hear me?
The suspense.
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, so
that was
suspenseful. Some cards, Wizards did not pay like a flat rate and say, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000 to draw art for Ali from Cairo." What they did is they said the artist would say, "I'll draw Ali from Cairo, and then you give me 1/10 of a cent for every single copy of Ali from Cairo you print." Mm-hmm. So then, when they reprint the card, they choose a different artist so that they don't have to give them royalties for the reprints of the cards.
Oh, makes sense.
A classic example: the back of the Magic card. The guy that drew the back of the Magic card gets 1/10 of a cent from every single Magic card ever printed. And he still has that right.
Making bank. If I was Wizards, I would assassinate him. Do not do that.
Cut that out of our...
I'm just saying it adds up. Wizards, don't take my legal advice. Disclaimer, Daniel is not a lawyer.
Dan, what do you feel?
Zach, I want to do Zach's first.
Oh, Zach.
F the reserve list. Just F it. We don't need it. I want everyone to be able to play whatever they want. Prices will be what they are. An Alpha Sarah Angel, still going to be an Alpha Sarah Angel. There's only going to be so many that have ever been printed, opened, in good condition. I want all of you guys to be able to have whatever your heart desires. You want to buy you? Brian, go get you a $25 buy you. That's what I want for you.
I definitely do like that. My view on it is I don't care about the value of my cards. I just want to play. I do not sell. I do not trade. I literally, for like the first time, I said like, "Hey, I'm thinking of maybe selling one of my cards because it seems irresponsible to keep it at this point." But like, yeah, I don't trade my cards. I don't care. I'm not losing anything because they're going to sit there endlessly in EDH decks. I can't foresee any time in the future. I've played Magic pretty much my whole life. I'm not gonna not play just suddenly like 2 years from now because I'm busy. So for me, I want to see people play more. I want to play against the best ideas people have. I don't want to play against budgetary restrictions. And like I understand that for some people that's part of the fun, but I just like to play against cool decks, cool ideas. I love seeing like the different ways people go about making decks. I love the fact that if the five of us made the same commander today, if I gave us a make a Golos deck challenge, we would not have the same Golos decks, right? I love to see like the creativity people put in. I love to see the time they do it. Like I love Zach's deck list. Like I loved Tony's idea for like Squirrel Voltron Toski and stuff. Like Arkello's awesome. I like the way that Brian plays like Sovala. It's so very different than like I have two Sovala decks. And it's like a completely different deck. That's what I like so much about Magic. And the more people can play, the more they can actually get their hands on these cards, the more they can build, the more ideas I can see, and the better player I can become by going against this. Like dual lands don't wreck anything for you. They don't make the game better. Buy a back to basics and wreck my whole day. Like play Blood Moon and just watch me rage quit. Like it's you know what I mean? There's answers to everything in Magic, right? And like price is one of those things that there is an answer to, but at the same time, I don't want everyone to have to like try like do the price thing, like buy packs, like we said before, you would be able to sell out anything that you put like dual lands in. Any set, it doesn't matter how good or bad the set was, would completely sell out because people would want it, right? Store owners are happier, more people are coming into play because that's Vintage is a great example. No one plays it because that barrier to entry is monstrous. And EDH is already such a complex game. So looking through everything, especially as a new player, you look through it, you get such an exciting, oh wow, this Anvil of Bogarden's so awesome. It would be like the perfect thing for like my discard deck, because I'll be able to pair it blah 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 way. And then you find out it's $400. Like that's not a feel good experience for a lot of players, right? It's oh well, I guess I don't get this. I think the reserve list should just go away entirely. I think that anyone who wants to try sue Wizards should absolutely,
Try.
eat your heart out, but it's not going to work. Like again, there's precedent for them breaking it. No one sued them before, and these cards are still going to be valuable. If the only 1,100 Black Lotuses were printed from Alpha, there's no way for them to not be valuable. And like Zach said, in good condition is a very, very different thing because like I was a kid when I started playing this game. The fact that any of my cards are in like passable condition is awesome. I joke with my friends all the time. I have a Bazaar of Baghdad that was chewed by my parents' dog. It's the dog dish special one. I could probably still sell that for like $500, and it has like bite marks through it. Like in good condition is a very, very different thing. Like it just blows me away like how many of these old like reserve list cards are probably like sitting in like a shed or like a landfill somewhere. They just don't exist anymore. Someone set them on fire. They ripped them because they were angry in a game. Like, yeah, there's not very many of these old cards. They're always going to be valuable, but like the real thing you should enjoy is playing with your friends, right? And we should want people to be able to play the game more and more.
100%.
Also, just a quick anecdote on all this, and not everything, but if you look at a lot of the stuff that's on the reserve list, like Juzam Jin, 5/5 for 4, and you take a damage every upkeep, there are way better cards that exist for the
Yeah.
same mana. Like, why, other than age and collectability, who cares if they reprint that? Like, Questing Beast is, mind you, it's green, it's way better than a Juzam Jin.
The big problem is that like the cards are wildly expensive and some are terrible. Some are just trash cards. Like some are so
Pyramids.
bad. Angus Mackenzie is not a very good card. It's like you can like tap banned colors to prevent combat damage. There's so many other options to just prevent combat damage. Like it's not a good card. It's like a fun, like a $50 commander, maybe I could see a $20 commander, maybe. But like if they reprinted it, like you would obviously like not pay $500 is it now for Angus Mackenzie? Like And then,
So-
like you said, you've got these old gins, like you have like pyramids. Like a lot of the cards aren't good.
Yeah, pyramids is 6 casting cost, pay 2 mana, prevent a land from being destroyed, or remove an enchantment from any land.
Yeah, like there's some good
Pyramid-
cards and there's some not good cards. Like I
Pyramids
said,
is a $200 card right now.
Mhm.
Card is garbage.
so yeah, that's our quick take on the reserve list, what it is, why it is, and why it shouldn't be.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely let us know if we're wrong.
it's definitely an interesting topic to be had with the community because we've had a
Yeah,
small
and-
conversation in our Discord. So I'm interested to see what the greater whole of you have to say on this.
Yeah, day or night people want to talk about the reserve list and why it should go away. You can always chat me up on our Discord because I will engage with you.
He'll bite that hook.
That is true.
I have thoughts on it for sure. Thank you guys so much for listening. Brian, let them know where they can find us.
So you can check us out on our website, intothe99.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things Into the 99. On there, you can find articles written by members of the community. You can find our links to our YouTube channel, the newest videos, as well as Lotus's new series, Brewing It Live, where she brews decks every Sunday. You can find out our weekly streams on Tuesday, and I believe Lotus will bring us a Saturday stream as well. And if you wish to support us, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/into the99, and our merch store. You can find links to that below and on our website as well. Yes, as well, our sponsor Etch Gaming, where you can find any like nifty I'm losing words for this. Nifty like commander trays, token ability tokens, everything you need to increase your gameplay.
Also, if you guys find us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a like and a review. It greatly helps other people find us.
Thank you so much for listening.
See
Good
ya.
night, everybody.
Night.